Hi, Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting and also recruit experienced people to paint along with us and give us some tips from time to time. I always do kind of a test tile before we get going, or test plate before we get going in these workshops. And so I actually did one using some of the colors that, the basic colors that people would have on their palettes. And this is what my first one came out like. And I was pretty disappointed. Now, I do like the way it turned out as far as I like the watercolor effect it kind of has. But I put a lot more orange on it, and all the orange fired out. You can see there's tons of yellow, but no orange. So I thought, okay, what's happened? I need to figure that out. So the next thing I did was I went through and I took all my oranges and I put them on a tile and I fired them. And you can see I have pumpkin, South brown, poppy, English orange. This is dark orange, cadmium orange, and orange red. Those were the colors of orange that I had available. And so I did a first fire on them, and this is what I got. And it didn't look like the oranges fired out. Okay, so then I decided it must be the combination of the yellow and the oranges. And so I did another tile. And this tile I did using poppy, Persian, and yellow red, which are the colors that I used on that first tile that I painted the pumpkins on. And down the side, these are the colors that I mixed with. So I full loaded with egg, side loaded with yellow, red, or Persian or poppy. Here it was mixing yellow, I full loaded, side loaded with yellow, red, Persian, or poppy. And here it was Albert I full loaded with, side loaded with yellow, red, Persian, or poppy. And you can see this was the poppy, which is what I used mostly on that tile. And this fired out, the poppy fired out completely when I mixed it with mixing yellow. And so did a lot of the yellow red, which I also used on that. So I would say if you have Albert is a good yellow to use. If you have egg, which you can still buy egg through Dallas, China. But if you have egg works really well. Or you might want to take the yellows you have and do a tile like this and just see which ones are the best. And I've been saying for a long time that I like Paula White's paints. I really do. I used Paula White's paints because I never had a problem with them, and I thought I'm going to see what happens with them. And this is Sunflower Yellow and her South Brown, which is kind of a clay color, but it's really an orangey clay color. And this is what I got. You can see the colors are much darker. I used a shading green here, and up in the top parts I used my yellow brown, but mixed it with shading green and with her yellow. All the yellows in here are her yellow, which is called Sunflower. So that's just gives you an idea of how the different paints you use really affect the outcome of your piece. So let's get busy painting. So I'm going to start, and I have to tell you, when you do this, I did it two different ways. I tried to do my pumpkins and then do my background, and that doesn't work. So now I'm going to do my background and then do my pumpkins. And for my background on these, I'm going to use, I can either use a warm brown green, which I really like up in the background. And I can also use a shading green with it, but I think I'm going to use the warm brown green and maybe even a black green. I'm going to start up here and I'm going to work my way around to the bottom. If you paint the pumpkin and then the background, you mess up the pumpkin. So you have to do all the background pretty much. You can leave some of it down in here so you can hang on to the tile and then come back. So I'm just going to be painting my background. And the nice thing about this fire is with pumpkins, you want to get them done in 2 fires. You don't want to have to do more than 2 fires. So I'm just painting the background. I'm not being real careful with it because it's just shadows in the background. It doesn't really matter. I would try to keep it fairly smooth. But I'm just putting my shadows in the background and feathering them out, trying to make them nice and smooth. Let me show you what I've done so far. Okay, there's, see, I'm just painting in the background. I'm using a combination of yellow brown and like a black green. And then I'm going to try to smooth it out as much as I can. Painting on tiles is a little different than painting on plates. I think you will find that you're going to have some issues trying to keep things smooth. Okay, so I did leave some breaks up in there and things like that, you know, little highlights, because I do want the background to look, you know, like there's sun and things going on behind there. So I'm full loading with eggs, side loading with a moss green in this case. And I'm using a number 12 brush, which might be too big for some of you. So whatever brush you're comfortable with, although you're doing the background, you ought to probably do something that's, oops, I need a little more yellow on there. You're going to probably want to do something that has a little more of a reach to it, just so that you don't have to spend hours doing the background, because you want to get on with the pumpkins. And you're just going to paint in that leaf. And if you side load, the full load with yellow, the side load with green, will give you that really pretty shading, kind of an automatic shading that you don't get unless you do that. Don't worry about being perfect on this. We can always do the perfect stuff later. Okay. And then I'm going to clean my brush again, because I'm going around, so I have to go back to the other colors that I'm going to use. And I guess this time maybe I'll do a moss green with a little bit of brown green, because it's getting a little lighter as we go to the left in this particular situation. So I'm going to start up here. Can you see what I'm doing? Yeah, I think you can. And I'm just going to plop in the color. You don't have to be a perfectionist. Now I'm adding a little of the black green, but as you get closer to where the pumpkins meet, you may want to add a darker color because you kind of want some shadow back there. But please, this is not something you have to be a perfectionist about. We're just painting. This is going to be a trivet. It's going to be maybe something to hang on your wall. It doesn't have to be fine art. It can be done very quickly and easily with just kind of putting the color on. And the way I put my color on is I go around each thing that I'm trying to avoid. Like in this case, you can see I'm trying to avoid this leaf. So I'm going to paint around it. And then I take my brush and I feather it by using the very end of the brush to try to get it as smooth as I can. And if it's not feathering smooth and I'm getting lines, I press on my paper towel, my brush on my paper towel, and I go back in and I continue trying to do it. Now, you don't want, as I have here, the stem to separate the dark from the light. You want to carry the dark over into this area. So I'm going to go back. You need to get it really dark, I guess. And I'm going to add some dark back in here so that it doesn't look like it stops there. Because you certainly don't want a line just because you have a stem there. Okay? Alrighty. And then I'm going to clean my brush because now we're up against a leaf right here. And I'm going to get fresh oil on it. I'm going to go back into my yellow egg, and you know, I think these are nice either with a chartreuse or a moss green, just to make them stand out from the background. So this is what I'm doing. Can you see here? I'm doing it this way, and then kind of like we do our roses. I'm just following the contour of the end of the leaf to get a little color on the end of the leaf. And I don't know that you can really see that. Let me just do it again with a little more green. I'll use a shamrock I have here. It's a real bright green. So I do that. And I do that. And then I come back and just hit the end of the leaf. Okay. Alrighty. And I might as well do the big one up at the top too. Okay, I'm trying to keep the glare off for you. It's not that easy because I have the overhead light and it's right above me. But so in this case, I'm going to come around like this, come to the center, come around like this. Can you see how I'm doing it? Take a little of the green and just get it on the edges and get it on up here a little bit. There we go. And then just brush it so it's nice and smooth. Remember, you can always put your veins and things in later. You don't have to put them in now. If you do want to put them in now, you can just touch that center vein like I did right there. I just touched it like this, watch. Just touched it with some paint on it. I have some dark paint on there. And it at least gives you the center vein. You can worry about the others later. It's not something you have to do right now. As the paint sets up, it'll be easier. You can go in with your Pico-Pay, which is this little job, and you can wipe out the stems, and you can wipe out some of the veins if you need to, just so you have them. I'm going to go into a warm brown and just do this background here. Ooh, that really came out dark. I'm going to go in with the warm brown, and I'm just going to, there we go, and add a little color there. So this is the background, and we're going to do the same thing over in this area. I'm going to put a little chartreuse up in here because I wanted to have a little light. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm putting a little chartreuse and a little moss green up in here, and I'm just cross-hatching with the moss green because there's a leaf right here. I'm going to gently go around the leaf. And then I'm going to go back and just cross-hatch. I kind of like this more rustic look for a pumpkin. I don't like it all smooth and beautiful all the time. I like the background to be kind of choppy and kind of mixed up. So your pumpkins are really your focal point. We're going to come down this side here. I think I'm going to use a little warm brown. This is a warm brown green because I think this is really your personal preference. That's basically what this is coming out to be. It's whatever you think will look nice there. And you may even want to add, here's what the shading green would look like. You may even want to add a little shading green. So for those of you that do watercolors, this is an opportunity to mix and match a couple of these colors in the background, make it look real watercolory. Because I think that helps to offset the pumpkins really well. So I know it looks sloppy, but we really don't care because it's background on this. For those of you that have been painting for a while and you go, oh my gosh, she's not being real definite. It's because it's background. It's not, you know, it's like when we feather out the background on different things. It's not the same as doing the leaves like we've been doing. Here I'm going to, oops. Here I'm going to come along this side. I've got a full load of sunflower yellow, a side load of brown green. I'm going to come along this side and put in the shadow there. Then I'm going to make sure I get a little more sunflower yellow on. See how I put the shadow in? And I'm just going to go up to the top of that leaf up here. And I'm just going to pull in the sunflower yellow. And then if you really want a little bit of a vein in there, if you can see it, you can put it in. Just tap it in. This brush is a little long to do that, but you see what I get. I might go back later with a liner But I seem to be having pretty good luck by just tapping, lightly tapping. See, like this, watch. I'll show you real close here. It's not the right direction, but all right, let's do it the right direction. Here we go. I'm just going to tap. See what happens? Then I'm going to tap with just the edge of my brush. See how you get those little veins in there? It's not difficult. So I'm going to do this leaf here. I'm using my yellow. Oh, I'm sorry, am I painting out of frame? Here we go. And you can see there. And then I'm just going to put sunflower yellow with a side load of brown, green, and maybe a little bit of the, what do I have there? Moss green. And I'm just going to put it right here just to give it a little, there. And I'll just smooth it out a little bit. You have to smooth it out. Remember, when you smooth out, you go back to the back of your brush to smooth out. Those are a little harsh. Oh, forget it. That's the nice thing about China paint. You don't like what you did, all you have to do is erase it. Okay, let's get into the pumpkins. With my pumpkins, I always start with the yellow. And like I said before, when we did this tile here and looked at it, the egg seems to work the best with the oranges. The mixing seems to burn them out, and the Albert seems to work the next best. So if you have egg or Albert, it's great. You're going to take and you're going to go into it, and you're going to go where the sun would hit the pumpkin. So I have sun coming from this way, as I normally do. You can kind of tell by my leaves. And I'm just going to go up here and put in my sunlight. Oops. Here we go. I'm going to start with this big guy here. I'm going to put in the sunlight. On these guys, the sunlight would come from this direction. It hits the back of the pumpkin, and then it hits the front of the pumpkin. So here I'm putting in just my yellow. Now remember, your yellow is going to eat your orange, depending on what colors you use. And you're going to put the yellow in, but the way you're going to do it is, you're going to full load or side load your brush, like I'm doing now. But what you're going to do is, you're going to pull up. Do you see how I did that? Let me show you again on this guy here. So we're side loading the brush, and back here we're just going to pull towards the middle. I'm only side loading my brush with egg. You see how it gives you that highlight on the top? That's what you want. I'm trying to paint a little darker so you can really see the colors. And you're going to put a little here, and a little here. And you're going to just do a little up in here. And again, the yellow you don't have to be so careful about, because the yellow, it's the orange that's going to give you the ribs on this pumpkin. I'm going to turn it upside down now. Oops, got a little glare there. And I'm going to hit a few places right in here. I'm using a side load, and I'm just pulling it towards the top of the pumpkin. On the bigger pumpkin, I'm pulling a little more up. Now, here, and probably here, you're not going to have yellow near the top, because that's where the sun is way behind it, and you're not going to see the yellow. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing on this pumpkin here. I'm just going to do here, 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 and here. It's a side load of yellow, and I'm just pulling it up. So now, I'm going to start with the orange. Now, use the orange that you prefer. I tried Poppy. It did not work well for me. It will work well if you use the egg, I think. it'll work better, but it will still fire out. So you might want to use it in combination. Here, see the egg is the top line here. You might want to use it in combination with the yellow red. Same thing with the Albert. If you use Albert yellow on here, you might want to use it in a combination with a poppy with a yellow red, because otherwise you're going to end up losing a lot of your work. So you might want to mix them together because you really want it to be orange, but you know, it depends how many oranges you have. I'm side loading. I have a combination of poppy and yellow red, because I figured those are probably colors people would have a handy that are orange. I don't know what you use. And I'm just going to come down. I'm side loading. I side load with the two colors. I don't middle load with them. And I just start wiping it on, top to bottom. And then because I've got the heaviest, closest to the edge of my brush, if I go along that line there, that will create automatically, that will create my, that little divot that they have between the different segments. Okay. Now, another thing you need to do is you need to go around the top and just add a little of that to bring in, and this is very simple to do. Your side load only, you're going to bring in the top, make it go down in the pumpkin. You know how it kind of goes into the pumpkin. This is kind of like we did on the wild roses. I'm just tapping it or doing little C strokes, little check marks, if you want to call them that, to just get the color in the background. Can you see how I'm doing that? Let me come a little closer. I'm doing it like this. I'm doing this, 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 this. But I'm pulling it out just a tad so it looks like the pumpkin is going in. And again, I'm still with my poppy and my yellow red. And you can skip a little in between. See how I did there? I skipped a little in between. The idea is to make it look realistic. And if you've seen pumpkins, they're bumpy and they're lumpy and they have an irregular shadow pattern on them. I know, because I have one in my backyard. And that thing, I swear, if it ever gets any bigger, it's going to be the size of a winner. I wish we had a state fair this year, because I think it would probably win. Okay, so I'm doing the poppy, and I'm going around like this, up at the top. I'm just going around there. I want to give it the feeling that it's going down inside, okay? So now, I know this is dumb, and I haven't painted the bottom yet, but I like to start going around the bottom, because I think as soon as you do, it gives you a sense of how each of these veins works. Can you see how it, yeah, you can. Actually, I find that when I'm painting online, you guys can actually see more than I can see close up. So here, I'm putting the dark on that side, but if it comes over, I don't care. If it comes a little on that rib, I don't care. I'm going to come down here, and these are almost like C strokes. Can you see the stroke I'm using? I'll show you again. I'm just going across the bottom. I start up here and I kind of come around like that. And that's going to help me get a sense of the roundness of the pumpkin. And then I'm going to go back, side load only, Do that, and then just gently pull it across. And if you just pull down like this, you're going to get that color. You're automatically going to get some highlights. And if you smooth it real gently from the back, like we've been doing, that feathering, you instantly get some of the texture on the pumpkin. You want to leave some white. That pumpkin needs some texture. Now the big section here, where you get to the big part, you may have to improvise a little. You may have to pull this way a little, or you may have to flip it around and do both sides of the middle, which is what I end up doing usually, because that's the middle of the pumpkin. And then I'll go back, flip it back, and I'll just gently pull. Smooth things out a little. So that's how you do your pumpkin. I don't think there's any rocket science involved in this. I always do, excuse me, here, I'm going to add a little South brown. You see how the South brown is a lot darker? I really like the South brown. And I know, Pete, you guys don't have the South brown, and I'm putting it on here because I want to experiment a little and see how things are going to turn out. And then you're going to turn your plate. The hardest thing is holding the bottom of it, because you really should have put the color on there. So if you have something, you can put this on and then you can paint on it, because you're going to have to paint around the bottom of it. You're going to have to put that ground on here, and that's going to screw things up. So if you have one of those, like I had last week, those round tiley things, that would be the perfect thing to use. Oh, I'm sorry, the glare was too bad. That's what I did back there. I just took my poppy and my yellow red, and I'm just going down and adding a little bit of shading. Now, when you add shading, you can actually pull away like this and then smooth down, and you'll get the same effect. Okay. This pumpkin back here, I'm going to do all in dark greens. Also going to show you how I do the bottom here. I'm going to take yellow red, and I'm just going to flip it on right now, just so you get an idea. We'll do these properly later. And, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll add some green in there. Boop, 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 boop. This is like I said, this is just background. It's nothing fancy. So here's a little brown. And then we'll just pull it out. Oops, got a lot of oil on that brush. Can you see how I'm just putting the colors in and pulling it out. I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just making a straight line. See how I did that? Now let me show you down here. Let me show you down here how we're going to put the, and there's why you don't put the background. That's why you put the background in first, is so you don't kill your pumpkin. But okay, so there's the pumpkin. This is the background down here. You can take your Pico-Pay and you can pull up all different directions. Can you see what I'm doing here? Let me see. I'll hold it better. You can go right over the pumpkin, right over the background. And then those won't show up, but they will look like little white. See how they're the little white? Then you can take your brush, load it with a little brown, with a little green, and you can, this is my long liner, and I'm just starting at the bottom. And making some suggestions of straw and grass down there. And that's how I'm going to finish out the bottom. Let me show you on these that were done before. I think this one will show you the best. You can see the bottom there. Come right over your pumpkin and that'll give you a really nice bottom. And then for the stem, I've got kind of a liner. And I'm going to put it in a gray, a silver gray that I have here. I'm going to turn the pumpkin on its head and I'm going to pull from the base. You want it to look like wood. And so as you pull, you're going to leave those lines in there that you get. And I will now put it in brown and do the same thing. And then I will do a little more, a little more brown at the base. And a little more brown at the top. Now look at that stem. See, that's not too bad. I did that upside down, okay? And that, I think it turned out pretty well. And you want to take and put a little extra brown at the base, like this, just so that it really looks like it grows out of the base. Okay, so then all I would continue to do, I would do the background all the way around as much as I can, but it's very hard. If you have to hold it, you really can't do it. At least leave a corner where you can put your thumb, okay? But get under the pumpkins if you can, because that will then save you from wrecking your pumpkins later. And up in here, I'm going to put a little more of the green right here. Okay. And then go in and do your pumpkins. And up here, this little pumpkin up here is just going to be a green pumpkin. In fact, I might even add a little shading green to him. He's just a suggestion. He doesn't have to be perfect. You know, he's just back there. I would, oops, it's hard to hold like this, but see, I just put him in as a suggestion. You can always clean him up the next time you get to him. I'm just going to put a little brown there. He's way back there. Nobody's going to see him anyway. Okay, and then I'm going to go in and finish the pumpkin. And in order to finish this side, because this side I'm right-handed. I'm right-handed, so I did this side this way. But since I'm still right-handed, and I need to do the other side, I'm going to come and go like this, flip it upside down and work. I get a better, I get a much better product if I'm willing to turn my brush and paint towards myself. I think I just find it works better. And if your brush skips like mine's skipping right now, that's great. That's what you want for a pumpkin. You want the brush to skip. Look at that. See how it skipped? Isn't that awesome? Okay, and then I go back, press my brush out, and I gently bring it down. And smooth it. If you need to, you can go back in and add back in some of the yellow, like I lost some up here at the top, so I'm going to add it back in. Again, side load and just pull up. Okay, see how I did that? I went and I just put in, yeah, it's so hard to hold this. I put in just the side. And then I'm just going to put around the bottom like here and here. And then the only other thing I would suggest is I'm just going to take and put a little bit of the brown just to put it behind. Just a tad, doesn't have to be a lot. And because I don't like the way it turned out at the top up here, I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to pull it up a little like this. There, that's a little better. And then you do that stem. So here I'm putting in the dark at the, here, let me come up here. I'm putting the dark at the top, the dark at the base. I already just pulled through all my gray, silver gray. And now I'm just going to pull through, kind of sweep it up from the bottom. There we go. And if you turn it over, looks like a stem, doesn't it? Yeah, I think that works pretty well. And then take your Paintnporcelain and just go through and clean up your stems before you fire it. You see I had to clean up that stem there, and I have a stem, oops. Never paint a tile all the way around if you want to try to hold it. I have a stem there, and I just clean that out. And you can even go up here and put in a little bit of the Paintnporcelain kind of veins, and then fire it. Make sure you sign it. In this case, it might be easier just to sign it with your Paintnporcelain. I did that on one of mine already. I'm going to have to go through now and touch up wherever I've had my hands on his. I hope that helps you. Hello there again. I'm going to fire this. I'm going to work on the second fire using my other two samples that I had earlier on. And we'll see how it turns out. And please, if you work on this, send me some pictures so I can see what you've been doing too. And this time, don't think, just paint. Okay? Bye-bye. Hi. I hope you enjoyed the program. And I hope that you will watch future programs by liking and subscribing to my page. If you do subscribe, I would really appreciate it so that other people who have a similar interest will be able to see more of this kind of programming. I have studies available at my website along with products. If you're interested in finding out more about those, please look at the description box below. Thank you.